Hello, welcome to the Manic Pixie Dream Vlog. I am your host, Caroline Georges, and welcome today. Is suffering subjective? No. Good. That is a good question. And no, I think the philosophically correct answer is no. Suffering is not subjective. I stand firmly by that. I recognize that my endurance for suffering is I have more endurance for suffering than other people. There are some people who would be crack addicts if they had my life. There are some people who would have committed suicide if they have had my life. There are some people who would have, had horrifyingly bad problems. I have problems, for sure, but still, I don't live in a country where there's bombs being dropped on schools. Suffering is not subjective. I don't know what I would do if I lived in a place where there was bombs being dropped on schools. I would go crazy. I would probably become a terrorist. I would go fucking crazy. Those poor people. Those poor people. And say whatever you will about war, but man, those poor people who live in neighborhoods where there are bombs being dropped on schools. You would go fucking crazy. But anywho, suffering is not subjective. Because if you lived in a place where there were bombs being dropped on schools, you would become a terrorist. And you would start chopping off people's heads for no reason. That's what you would do. And unfortunately, there's far too many people in the world who were not strong enough to succumb living in environments like that. There are environments, even in America, that are just unspeakable to be raised in, to grow up in. You hear stories about people who grew up in certain poor neighborhoods in America, and you are just like, man, I cannot believe that's like a different planet. I remember the first time I remember seeing 8 Mile, and I know it's kind of a goofy movie, you know what I mean, because it's like, Eminem playing himself and stuff, but it's actually very good. It's actually a very good movie. It's surprisingly, shockingly, probably the best musical biography ever made, arguably. And it's kind of like a cult classic, but it's very, like, early 2000s. It's very early 2000s. But anyways, but I remember seeing that movie, and I remember thinking, like, where is that? Where is this place? And it was just, and that was in Detroit, And people who have had to grow up in horrifying environments and seen horrifying things. And I think it's always worth putting yourselves in other people's shoes, especially those who suffered more than you. But, my ex-boyfriend yelled at me this morning for a vlog that I posted, which he said I could repost. I took it down after I knew he was upset about it, so I took it down immediately. And he wasn't happy with what I had to say about his anxiety attacks. And I said something sort of nasty, and I was trying to be funny, and it fell flat on him. But I said sorry. I know I I hate it. I'm such a bitch sometimes. I hate it. I really don't like this about myself. And wasn't even thinking. I just did it, and it felt good, and I'm kind of a bitch for that, I guess. But I said the worst thing that ever happened to him were his parents got divorced. And he was really hurt by me saying that. I don't know. Guys, he broke up with me while we were kissing. You know, you can't do that. He should have just said it right away. And instead he waited. And we were lying on his bed making out, and then he pulled away and he just said, I think we needed to take a break. And then he had been thinking about it for a long time. Well, two can play that game. And, but you know, love isn't a game. Love is a soul. It's a spirit shared between two people. It's its own unique, special connection. Those are important. Connections are important. If you have a connection with somebody, that's a soul. That has value. That has spiritual value. That has currency in the spiritual realm, you know? And we shared something. We had a relationship. We had sex, you know? Like, and you know, even the really superficial, insignificant ones, even those hurt, you know? Rejections from those hurt too, almost just as bad. Why is that? There were guys that I couldn't give two shits about, but man, did they have money and power. So, fuck, I wanted to suck their dicks. Sorry. Sometimes I have nightmares that my mother will watch these one day, but oh my God. I mean, what am I going to do? Disappoint her again? I mean, come on. I'm sorry, but once you're a stripper and once you tell your mom that you're a stripper, like, there's really nothing, you can't go wrong after that, you know? There's nothing you can do. So I think making crazy vlogs, I wonder what she would say. She would just probably say, like, Caroline, why do you think people give a shit about what you have to say? Or something like that. She'd probably say something like that. Why do you think people would care? And, well, Mom, you know what? They don't care, but I'm still doing them. So, it's... That's probably what I would say. I miss her. I'll call her. I'm going to call my mom today. I'm going to call my mom. I miss her a lot. I look just like her, except with brown hair. She was, my mom has red hair, and, I really liked The Little Mermaid, and I really liked the sequel. There was a sequel where there was a girl that looked exactly like the Little Mermaid, except she had brown hair. And, when I had a Little Mermaid coloring book, and I always drew Ariel with brown hair. But my mom was always really confused. She never liked that. She never liked that people would say that to me, that people would stop me in the street, people I'd never met before, and would be like, oh my God, you're Linda's daughter, aren't you? And it's like, yes, you know, and it's like, we look so alike. And, but she doesn't think so. But she and I are so alike. We talk alike. We sound the same over the phone. My sister and I sound the same over the phone too. We're like three little clones of each other, living different lives. And my mom was always really beautiful. And then she turned 50, and then it was just like gone. All her looks just gone forever. And that's kind of how it is in my family. We're like, she's Swedish and Czechoslovakian. You know, my great-great-grand uncle was the dictator of Czechoslovakia in the pre-World War II, and then he took a brief hiatus during, and then took over again afterwards. Anton Zapotocki. Yeah, and so his sister is my great-great-grandmother, and so she escaped the Holocaust just in time. She was on vacation, and so she just found out that her family was taken into the Holocaust, or was taken into the concentration camp, and she just never went back, and she just went to America, and she just settled into a trailer park in Washington, and that was where, and my family on my mother's side to this day, aside from my mother, none of them have money. They're all white trash. But we have this legacy. This crazy legacy. Ugh. But he was Anton Zapotocki. He was like third row in Stalin's funeral. He was known to go along on assassinations. He liked to assassinate people. He shot some like war hero in the back of the head, like point blank, like during a meeting. Like he was crazy. And yeah. But look what happened to his family. Look what happened to his legacy. I have a cousin that was on Cops, and he wasn't a cop. Yeah. Nobody ever thinks about those people as if they're people, you know? Like, nobody ever thinks about those people, like, that are getting arrested and being chased around and stuff. I mean, it's all fun, but those are people, and they have families. And their great-great-granduncle was Anton Zapotocki, you know what I mean? The dictator of Czechoslovakia. They're people. They're flesh and blood. Why do we have these? We have such rivaling attitudes towards certain people, don't we? But we're all just people. We're all the same. We really are the same. We're all the same. Isn't that sad? Isn't that so fucking sad? That we're all the fucking same, but we all hate each other. Look at all this hatred that we have going around. Breaks my heart. Well, anyways, yes, so my ex-boyfriend, he was a little upset with me over saying that the worst thing that ever happened to him was his parents getting divorced. But you know what? He's a person. And maybe that was the worst thing that ever happened to him. And you know what? We only dated for 2 months. I don't know him. Maybe that wasn't. Oh, you know what? He also, his roommate committed suicide. His roommate in college committed suicide, and he was the one that discovered the body. Oh, you know what? That would give you anxiety attacks. I could see how that would. Okay, I'm sorry. You know what? And yeah, like I judged him. I decided to judge him. I had that judgment while we were dating, and I just and I would be the one that would take care of him while he was having an anxiety attack. And it was just like 2 months, and he didn't appreciate it. We were really different, and we had our problems, and it was probably really right that we broke up, and we had plenty of reasons too. But you have to, even if suffering isn't subjective, you still have to honor other people's pain. And I can empathize with somebody who hasn't suffered as much as I have. I could definitely empathize. If somebody hasn't suffered as much as I have, and I heard that they, had similar issues that I have, like depression or anxiety or something like that, I'm very empathetic. I always feel for those people. And I'll never forget my ex-boyfriend who grew up in wealth and privilege and how neglected he was, and how abused he was, and how unseen he was, and how much that hurt him being raised that way. And that really changed my view on, I kind of had reverse classism, I guess. And I think my reverse classism kind of can help me with my attitude towards clients, or would help me with my attitudes towards clients. It's like, oh, they have money, they have power, they're fine, they don't need $500, you know what I mean? Like, let's take this off the top, you know what I mean? Like, it made me feel like I was Robin Hood. I'll be honest. I was taking from the rich and giving to myself. And and I told my ex-boyfriend that, and he didn't judge me. It's really not a good time to judge me. Don't judge me now, Please don't judge me now. Judge me in a few years. Like, give me a few years, I'm really trying, and I think my ex-boyfriend really saw that. And, I'll never forget, he came to the strip club. He came to the club when I was working, and he couldn't understand why I was there. He was so weirded out with me being there. It was so unnatural to him. And I wouldn't have been able to have leave stripping if I wasn't for him. And he's the son of a rich man. Anyways, so, yeah. That is my vlog for today. Have a lovely day, and like and subscribe, and please support the Patreon. All right, have a lovely day. Bye.